really held me back. I've got Jason Barguiner alongside me. We've got Tony Warren off pole position, four-wheel drive. We're just looking at a lot of two-wheel drive stuff. Well, the bicycle action was good fun this weekend, Jace. But I tell you what, that thing off the front row, that Lancer, he's going to be out like a lightning bolt.
Yeah, it's not only that, he's actually sitting on the dry part of the track. So obviously, after we've had the supercar qualifying, you'll see there's dry and wet bits of the track. Adam Garwood there on the front row in his Porsche. He's sitting on a wet patch, so yeah. I expect he's not going to go very far off the start. There's a few missing cars throughout the field. We've had a few failures, unfortunately, and some of these cars have had little dramas. But yeah, I mean, it's a diverse field. There's three different classes: Class A, B, and C. And there's that little bit of wet patch I was talking about. Unfortunately, Ray Hislop there's also on a bit of a wet patch there on the actual racetrack, so the start will be very interesting.
They've got the World Endurance Championship for mountain biking happening in Tassie this weekend as well, so it's all happening in Tasmania. The Buckby Sports GTs are on the line. Watch that Lancer go, four wheels to the ground. Oh, Greg Garwood stalled it on the green in the Capri. Let's hope they all miss him. Oh, it's going to be tight in the background. There they go. That's a hard stopper, but the Lancer is out into the lead.
And jumping up into P3, that little clubman of Lee, he's managed to look at them all trying to find their way through nice and gently, give each other a bit of room. Everything's a bit wet and slippery, but out in front, it was definitely Warren who's just
out of
bolted. Lee now in the, Hislop's moving across in front of him. Want to make sure he stayed in front, because that little clubman's got really great braking capabilities.
Now Garwood trying to pull his way back up in that Capri as we go on board with the clubman. You watch the big V8 just walk away. That thing is horsepower. Oh, missed a gear.
This little clubman, it's a fantastic little race car, little Toyota engine in it. 6-speed sequential gearbox. A big gap now down the back straight from Hislop. But when we get to the braking zone, you watch that little clubman come back at him.
The way they're spread out, it's like lap 5 at the moment. We've only completed 2 kilometres of racing, and already that Lancer's nearly into traffic. Further back, Les Walton in that WRX. Fair to say he'll have a bit more grip than some of the other cars around him. Also, four-wheel drive. And that big Tirana struggling to get the power down.
Some of these guys will use a slightly different tyre, or they'll stay on the same tyre in terms of the fact that they're an R dot or an R spec, I should say, or dot tyre.
I thought this car was coming into the pits in the background. Not even. He just ended up going straight ahead at that last corner. He did a good job to get that turned around. I thought it was going to go head-on into the fence for Tony Besson.
You're right, in the background. I saw it disappear. I thought, oh, that's going into pit lane. Obviously got a drama, but that was more heading towards the gravel trap, unfortunately.
And it's raining again. Now down it comes with a red flag out. And I wonder if this has got something to do with the sheer conditions. That is in a really awkward spot. You do not want to be stuck there.
This is obviously the right choice to red flag the session. The car coming through, that's Warren is coming through in the background there.
Oh, now you never want to cross the start line with a red flag out.
See that right front tyre just hanging out. They don't have a lot of tread. Clearly their medical team get there and will make sure they're okay.
Jason, with your experience as both an official and a racer, what's the protocol here with the red flag out for the drivers?
Well, obviously a red flag out, they should be returning to the pit lane area because we've got the grid covered. So you can see there, Garwood's car stopped, and there's that wet and dryness we were talking about early. Greg Garwood's managed to get that car going, but fortunately the field's missed him. And all good, but let's have a look on board with Lee. Lit it up on the dry stuff.
Nice.
And kept going.
He was lucky it naturally went left on him. Beautifully evading Greg Garwood, who was stuck on the start line. Now just watching the background here, is this, there it goes. Oh, that went in a big way.
Bizarre accident. The way that car's turned, it's obviously made contact and gone the other direction. Look at that. Oh, that is bizarre the way it's done that. It maybe stepped the rear out and it's got a big tap slapper, and that's where it's ended up. The tyre barrier there has done a great job. Bring that car to a stop in the gravel trap, and as all the fields come into pit lane now.
Whack.
Most of the fields come into pit lane now as part of the red flag.
Well, that was the awkward thing, because we saw Tony Warren go past that crash section. He has a huge lose mid-part in that Lancer and goes off. But yeah, the race leader and second on the track, Garwood, both came past that area instead of getting back into the pit. So that'll be one that the officials will look at. One thing I've noticed this weekend, Jace, and I love your thoughts on it, we've seen quite a few red flag infringements this weekend. Is it just because this place is so small?
Oh, look, it's a combination of things. Quite often in motor racing, you don't get many red flags. So drivers, they're out on the circuit, they're doing their thing, and all of a sudden they've got to, get their head through that rule book, exactly what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to do it. So they get a bit confused, obviously, and then you can see Warren in the background there now sneaking into pit lane along with Garwood. So, yeah, what we saw with this car, Benson, he's had that moment. He's let the car, the rear of the car stepped out. He's given it a whole lot of lock to try and catch it, and then she's just got the big tank slapper, and he's lost it then, unfortunately, into the fence. Bit of damage on the left front, but holding up a 5-minute board there. So whether they, how they get this race restarted, whether they get that car out of there, it will be interesting to see how they go about it. But all the field back into pit lane now, but Warren's still the car to beat. He just bolted, didn't he? He was gone.
Bugs, I was just going to jump in. Warren's making his way back around at the moment. So is Adam Garwood. Chad and you just spoke about it before. They both went round very clearly under red. Ray Hislop obeyed the orders, which is when a red flag comes out, you leave the circuit back into pit lane. So there's plenty more to play out on this one, but first and second with a very big question mark over them going into this race.
There's one for the officials. And so we've got the little Lancer out of the gravel trap. Cam, what's happening down there?
Well, we're actually going back for a full race restart. You mentioned before we might restart it under safety car. All drivers have now been informed by the officials that they are to go back around, grid up again. That could be very good news for first and second, Tony Warren and Adam Garwood.
I think you're right. That would be a horrible technicality to get done in on for Tony Warren, given the amount of speed that he's had in that Lancer. 1.6 seconds clear of the field in qualifying in dry conditions. And then seeing as everyone else is rear-wheel drive around him in that front of that pack, having four-wheel drive was just a monstrous advantage. And it's one of those days down here in Tasmania, but I've always thought some of the most memorable days you have at the track are the wet and stormy ones, because you just see some pretty special things, and we're getting that today, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting place to race in the wet. It's got different grip levels right around the circuit. Spray's a big problem because there's such long straights and high speed straights. The spray is a bit of an issue here, and particularly on that run down to the hairpin, down to turn 4, and then towards the end of turn 6 as you're approaching the last part of the circuit. So for these guys, they're obviously got to get themselves through. You can see it's still spitting and raining at the moment, so that little dry line that did exist at the start of this race is now going to be gone. It's going to be a wet track everywhere. And that start's probably going to be a little bit more even now with that grid, covered in water.
A little bit of gravel from where we got that car out of the gravel trap. What's it like being in race control on a day like this? Obviously, lots of important decisions to be made. Yeah,
look, it's obviously very challenging for those guys up there. They've got to make the right decisions. We can see in the background there. Yeah, so Benson's car stepped out in the rear. He's going to catch it off the throttle, and it's gripped. Once it's gripped, he's got a handful of opposite lock. The car then steers in that direction and it flicks the other way. You can see that rain falling in that shot as well. So it's just now a little bit wetter out there on the track, and the end result is that bang into the fence for Benson's car.
So why would they have gone for the red flag in that scenario in this race instead of a regulation safety car? Just is that a safety decision?
Well, maybe on where the car is and the decision in terms of the accident, whether the driver's okay. You need to make sure that's one of the first priorities, to ensure that quite clearly the driver's okay and you can get the medical team to him. So in some cases it's much better, particularly in a race where there's not a championship at stake and all that sort of thing, to red flag it, clear the track, get the incident out of the way. Because if we'd have kept going under safety car, we probably would have gone the whole race under safety car. So now at least we've got a chance to get the race back underway again.
How cool was this battle? A big thumping V8 up against a little 4-cylinder Toyota-powered Clubman in wet
You'd be scared of running it over, wouldn't you? It'd disappear under the bonnet and you'd be like, hang on, where'd that car go? Where'd it go?
Watch it close when it just revs up and gets going. Riding on board with Ray Hislop. Easily has the power to just blow by that car in a straight line. Tried to give him a little bit of room.
Here it comes again, up the inside.
Try and
so this is the drag race, wasn't it? Out of the hairpin. There's a little Clubman again.
And then he just strides away from him once more.
Ray Hislop engages the other 4 cylinders, and away we go.
This is a cracking start. Keep in mind that Capri ahead of him was stalled. Malcolm Lee, cat-like reflexes to get around him on the left.
Had advantage being on that drier part of the circuit there. Ray Hislop was struggling to try and get the power down, and then he was away.
Cool camera angles as we ride on board. Quite literally, every angle covered on board that little Clubman. There's been much loved race cars, kit cars. You can assemble these things yourselves and put different motors in them. Quite popular in the UK.
This is the big advantage with these little lightweight cars has. You can turn the car, get it rotated, on the throttle nice and early, and then starts to again challenge Ray Hislop. But Ray just looks to his side, goes, no mate, I'm out of here, see you later.
just got the limiter there in fifth. He was so busy, he forgot to change gears. 6-speed sequential box in that car. Very cool indeed.
Yeah, guys, another consideration for little Mal Lee. I'm sure you've seen him enjoying their racing out there. Is sitting alongside a very big Falcon that if you're side by side and you're on the outside, it's certainly not a fun place to be in a very exposed little clubman. But conditions are really weird. It keeps raining and then drying up at the moment. Cars exiting out onto track right now. They'll get it resorted and we're going to go back to the original grid.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Cam, because that is good news for Tony Warren and also Adam Garwood, who just couldn't quite make it into the lane in time when that red flag came out. So full restart of this race. Have a look at this cool blue Nissan Skyline, the R32. The Calsonic colours that it used to race, and that one as well. So we've got a bit of Australian history with that R32, and then a bit of Japanese history with the blue 32 behind it from an awesome time in motorsport back in the 90s.
Yeah, part of that field looks like a bit of a Group A touring car race from a World Touring Car Championship type of thing, doesn't it? So obviously, this is the thing that I love about this type of racing. These guys are very passionate about their cars. They've got, you know, different formats and what they can race with. 4-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, V8s, you know, turbocharged 6s, turbocharged 4s. And of course, we've got those couple of little clubmans. There's a couple of old Tiranas out there that are really well presented. A9X style or 4-door type Tiranas. There's a Mazda 808 or RX3, as many people would know it, you know, with the rotaries. There's a triple rotor, 20B RX7 that spits flames out as long as the back straight. It's amazing to see it when it goes down to the braking zone, and the crowd really love and cheer for that car. So there's a whole range of different cars out there, and you know, there's a different range of tyres as well. They're an R-rated tyre, dot-rated tyre, but of course they're all different brands. So in these conditions, it'll be interesting to see whose tyre works better. I know some of those Hoosiers don't have a lot of grooves in them. They don't get rid of the water very well, but work really well in the dry conditions. So wait and see.
So send him back around to the grid. It'll be a little bit of an awkward one because the Pulsar isn't actually the first car on the road here. This will be Ray Hislop. I think he's trying to find when they're going to come through. Here it comes. The Lancer and the Porsche are meant to be on the front row. The Falcon's meant to be on row 2. It's also great news for Greg Garwood, who missed the start in the Capri. He gets a free pass.
He gets a free kick.
Yeah, back to the second row.
Let's have another go.
So the other thing here is really going to get 3 minutes of racing, and it'll be a little bit like the Dunlop Series, sorry, the Dunlop Super 2 race that we had earlier today with that red flag and then restart. A bit of a sprint to the finish, this one.
So watch that Subaru there in the background, the Les Walton car. I reckon that'll be a bit of a rocket off the line as well, because now we're in that even condition in terms of the track's wet everywhere. Those 4-wheel drive cars will certainly have an advantage.
That includes the Skylines as well. The bigger Tiranas and big monstrous cars like that will struggle with rear-wheel drive. The WRX coming back in. Nissan trying to find its grid space. Gotta love some good local state racing. This is cool. The Buckby Sports GT's set for a restart. We've got Tony Warren on pole in that Lancer. This thing just lays down all 4 wheels when it matters. Red light's back on. Racing once again. Gee, Hislop really struggling to get away. Spun up those rear tyres, and Leighton Barker might just pick him off down at turn 2. Great start from Barker, the former Ute racer. Slides up inside the top 3. Mal Lee couldn't quite find his way through. It was almost a block track ahead of him. Second to the clubman, trying to slot in ahead of some fairly bigger machinery, but it's the Lancer, unsurprisingly out front down towards turn 4.
Ray Hislop didn't go anywhere, did he? He just let that clutch out and the car just sat still. You can see Les Walton there now going up the outside of Greg Garwood in that Subaru. He got a really good jump, but then found himself against a wall of cars, as did Mal Lee, who got a great start as well. So, a bit of a range of cars going through there. They're giving each other room, which is good to see. Les Walton now found his way up into 4th, 5th place, chasing down Ray Hislop, who really didn't get a good start at all.
V8 powered Capri versus the newer WRX. Les Walton is the racing team which won the Australian Rally Championship last year with Molly Taylor. And here he is behind the wheel himself, having a crack, which is very cool. Still with that Subaru theme, I might add. Now, we will complete this lap before 43 past the hour as Hislop slides his way across the line. I reckon we might have 2 more laps in this one, Jason.
Hislop there, trying to get on the throttle. It's a very difficult part of the circuit. The car's loaded. You're trying to squeeze the throttle. You tend to shortchange, and Here's Ray Hislop there, not really going anywhere. Missed the jump. We've got, is that Ferguson there? He's missed the jump as well. He's got a bit of a drama. Side by side through the field, but good to see no contact and all giving each other a bit of room.
That was tight at the back. Here it is. Listen to this. Wow.
Wheel spin, wheel spin, wheel spin.
Really struggled to get the power down. Oh, this is a moment. Oof. Now that's the second of the club. That's Cruz in that car. Slipping out and thankfully getting it straightened up. Checkered flag will come out this time by, so that'll be all she wrote for the Buckby Sports GTs. And in 2 laps, look at the lead that Lancer pulled out. 6.5 seconds. That'll probably get even further by the time they get to the stripe. 6.5 second victory in a 2-lap race. That Lancer is just in another planet. And Les Walkden having a crack here at Ray Hislop on the last corner. Not quite going to get there. Tight action in that fight for third. Barker getting home ahead of Hislop. Walkden, Garwood. Entertaining stuff, given it was such a short race, that one, Jason.
Well, a good little battle going on there over that short distance for what ended up being third place. But Tony Warren, he had all those dramas yesterday in practice, but when it's counted, he's popped up and put it on pole by a significant amount. And then in the wet today, he's managed to get that job done and win the race. We've got Cruz just rejoining the circuit again after what looks like his second or third spin for the race. There's Ray Hislop, that big Falcon, big V8 powered Falcon, to try and get the power down. Very difficult in these conditions. But Tony Warren from Adam Garwood in the Porsche. Les Walkden up to third place, although we thought we saw Barker there. So Ray Hislop, Andrew Williams, Greg Garwood, and there's Barker there in 7th place. So
pretty good fun race, that one in the end. All the way down over the page we go. And plenty of variety in this field. 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, we love it. And that was entertaining stuff. Congratulations to Tony Warren.